Psalm 121. Well, I've looked it up in a couple of versions, and I want to open up our theme by reading it to you out of the Message. Some of you know the Message paraphrase. Listen to this. I look up to the mountains. Does my strength come from the mountains? No, my strength comes from God, who made heaven and earth and mountains. He won't let you stumble. Your guardian God won't fall asleep. Not on your life. Israel's guardian will never doze or sleep. God's your guardian, right at your side to protect you, shielding you from sunstroke, sheltering you from moonstroke. God guards you from every evil. He guards your very life. He guards you when you leave and when you return. He guards you now, and he guards you always. As I read that passage, particularly in that translation, I look to the mountains, and where does my strength come from? God guards me. I remember something that happened in our family, and I was trying to put a date on it and I couldn't, but I can say it was probably 37 years ago. When my husband and I first began ministry, our first church was on a very small community. There were only 32 homes and the church, and it was a First Nations reserve up in northern BC. Oh, it was so beautiful there. This little community sat along the edge of the Skeena River and was surrounded by mountains. It was just beautiful. We very much enjoyed our time there. One particular night, we said, let's go for a drive. And so we put our young daughter in the back seat and off we went. Now in those days, we were driving a sedan, an Impala. So some of you, that'll mean something too. And off we went. And we went up this old road that got narrower and narrower. And it turned out it was actually an old logging road that went up and around the side of the mountain. And as we went, it was bumpy and there was large potholes. And it was a bit mucky in spots, but the road got narrower and narrower and narrower. And I think some of you have been on roads like that where you say, I gotta wait until I find a place that's wide enough to turn around. That's kind of the situation we were in, and we drove along. You know, you can see a bear, there's wolves up there, there's eagles. It's beautiful. It was a beautiful evening drive. We had to find a spot. We see a spot that we can turn around, you can back into it and then pull off and go back down where you came from. It looked like a good spot to turn around. So you back in, and all of a sudden, and we could feel the car go down into the mud. It looked dry, it looked safe, but it wasn't. And we were locked in. We couldn't go at all. And my husband, the term we use is floored it, gave it lots of gas and tried to get it up and going. Nothing. And then, you know, you might have done this in the snow. You kind of rock it, you back up a bit and you try. You back up and you try. We weren't going anywhere. All we were doing in this locked in position was spinning our wheels and flicking mud out behind us and all over the car. Well, this went on for a few minutes. This going forward, but going nowhere, and being stuck, being locked in, and just spinning our wheels. And then my husband looked at me and he said, you're going to have to stay here. You're going to have to stay here, and I'll go and walk back to the village and get help. But you stay in the car, lock the doors, and don't get out. Now, you remember what I said about bears and wolves and everything else. He's like, you keep the doors locked and don't get out. Locked in. No choice. There I was. Okay. And then he said after a few more minutes, wait, before I go, let's just give it one more try. So that good, faithful one more try. Turn the car back on. Okay. Whew, and we were out. And down we went, down the side of the mountain again, slowly. We also went quietly for the first little bit because the tension had been pretty thick in those moments, and there was relief. And as we went in the quietness, my husband turned and looked at me and said, I didn't think we were going to get out of there. And then the little voice from the back seat spoke up. Said, I did. I prayed that the Lord would help us. I knew he would. Oh, lessons learned. Lessons learned. The Lord will help us. Could look around at the mountains, but there was no help. I needed the one who created the mountains to help us out when we were locked in. And what that really made me think about was COVID. I'm locked in again, and we've got no choice. Well, we're starting to venture out. But oh, I wish you wouldn't. We're starting to venture out. Maybe we found that during COVID, as we're ministering to others, we feel like we're spinning our wheels. And maybe as we're at home, we're spinning our wheels and flicking muck on other people. Who knows? How's your call in all of this being affirmed? Because it's not all bad. There is some good stuff. And the second question is about how do you receive help from others? And I thought about that because I pictured in my mind, had my husband had to walk all the way back to the village and to say to somebody in that little community, I need help, we're stuck. There'd be some embarrassment that goes with that. To say, we went up on that mountain where we probably shouldn't have gone and we got stuck. There's a hard time with that, right? So how are we at receiving help? When we're stuck, even if we're rocking back and forth, or when we're just locked in the muck, do we ask for help? And how are we at receiving it?